Well, folks, it's me, the Ben 10 man, back at it again with more Ben 10 goodness. Last time I talked about how Alien Force handled the transition from the OG series to this, and also discussed some stuff about its presentation. But today, we're basically back to the episodic reviews. Now, episode 1 and 2 of Alien Force are focused on kicking the show's wider plot into gear, while also reintroducing us to these characters. As I already mentioned last time, our main trio of Ben, Gwen, and Kevin are all pretty different now, and you can get my thoughts on that in that video. Regardless, we see that these DN aliens are up to something tricky, and without Max there, the gang is going to need to learn what they're up to and save the world on their own. As Ben says, the training wheels are off. Conceptually, I like this idea. After all, this is supposed to be Ben 10, but older, more mature, and what better way to drive that home than forcing Ben to be a hero without Grandpa? Basically, he doesn't have this source of knowledge anymore, this guardian, and that means that things are going to be a bit trickier and probably more dangerous. In fact, Ben is going to spend quite a bit of time in this first season trying to find Grandpa, as though he can't quite accept that the roles have changed and that this adventure will be different. And another part of that being different is it seems like the injuries Ben gets while in alien form will carry over to his human form. This is a good way to ensure that the protagonist doesn't become so powerful that they just tear through the conflict set out before them. This also works well because now he has enough control to typically get the alien he wants out of the watch, so we've lost the old way that he was balanced, but there's this new way to take its place. I'm curious to see where they'll go with this. Needless to say, there are tons of other things shown in this episode, but if I got into those, then I'll just be repeating myself, so let's not talk about that. Let's get to some new content. Episode 3. Here, Ben and the gang follow a tracking beacon from their plumber badge in the hopes that it will lead them to Grandpa. Instead, they find a boy named Alan, who looks a lot like Heat Blast. He's in trouble with the authorities for crimes he didn't commit, and now he needs their help. This episode is mainly focused on Ben growing into his new role as a leader of sorts for other superpowered people. After all, Alan is having a ton of trouble controlling his powers, but Ben is quick to help him hone his skills, and in the end, this also ties into the story's larger plot. Alan is going to be here, ready to help Ben if he ever needs it. Overall, it's a decent way to show how Ben has grown and what he's capable of with his newfound maturity. On top of that, there are some nice cuts for the animation and action, leading to probably some of the best fights in Alien Force. However, I do have some issues. Mainly, they really don't use the environment much. Like, Heat Blast has fire shooting out everywhere, and the crops are just fine. This limited environmental effect makes the alien itself feel far less powerful and real. And yeah, that's all I have to say about that one. It's not bad, but it also doesn't have all that much going on. It feels mainly like setup for future episodes with the DN aliens plot and Alan, but that isn't necessarily a problem. Just means I'll need to see where this goes. The next episode is very different though. This one is fairly Kevin-centric and deals with the group's trust in him. When he takes off with the newly fixed rust bucket, Ben has some questions for him. I like that Kevin hasn't been entirely accepted into the group just yet. Now, that's not to say that it makes the transition from old Kevin to new Kevin smooth or anything like that, but I'm at least glad that it isn't being entirely ignored. Or, well, I'm glad it's not being entirely ignored by Ben, because Gwen is really bizarre in this episode, which I alluded to before. As far as I'm concerned, she just puts way too much trust in Kevin way too fast, especially considering that she used to be the level-headed one in the group. And that's not to complain about the idea of their romance in general. Like, I think Kevin is a fun character and that this relationship could happen eventually, but again, this makes Gwen not feel quite like Gwen. Sorry, Gwen fans, I'm not quite convinced. Either way, it's eventually revealed that Kevin did this for a good reason. He wanted to trade with Volcanus for this projector that contains a message Grandpa left behind, but he didn't tell Ben and Gwen because he felt like they wouldn't trust him if they knew about his connections and his past. Cool, I can get behind that, and I like how this works out. With Volcanus using Kevin's ability against him, and Gwen and Ben swooping in to save him. Eventually, Ben also tells him that the past is in the past, and that it's what he does now that matters. Considering that Kevin did this for them, I can appreciate that, and it's one of those things that makes me like Ben a whole lot more. However, this battle with Volcanus reveals a problem that's going to keep popping up throughout Alien Force. The fights. Alien Force is stuffed full of action, but it's just, I don't think it's very good. The aliens are too powerful. All too often, they're treated as a win button, where Ben changes, gets hit once or twice, then instantly fells his foes. It makes the action feel like a matter of course. Then there's the end of the episode when we actually get to see the message from Grandpa. All Grandpa says is basically, find plumbers, kids, make friends, and form a team. Cool. Thanks, Grandpa. I don't know what else I expected from him, but considering we spent a whole episode on getting it, I would like a bit more. Or I'd at least like if Kevin acknowledged that the message is a bit lackluster. That feels like something he would do. All in all, this is far from a terrible episode, but I don't know, I guess I'm pretty mixed on it. It was fine. But the next episode has some pretty interesting stuff going on. This time, the gang meets another plumber's kid named Michael Morningstar. Since Grandpa just told Ben to gather a team, Ben immediately wants him to join. However, it seems like there's something wrong and Kevin doesn't trust him. First off, I like the idea of Ben being hyper-focused on Grandpa's message. Even if I found the contents of the message to be a bit anticlimactic, Ben wouldn't. This is his grandpa telling him how to move on without him. Of course he would obsess over it. Really, it's just nice to see that Ben's love and respect for his grandpa is still in full effect here. However, Gwen's reaction to Ben here is so strange. See, Kevin is at least a little worried about the way he's obsessing and voices those concerns to Gwen. Gwen's response?
Why haven't you asked me out?
I don't know. I don't think Gwen would do that. Like, I get that she's into Kevin now and all that, but I'm pretty sure that she would still be worried about Ben. We've seen that they're super close. This is weird. I don't like it. Either way, this obsession leads to Ben making some mistakes. He trusts Michael way too quickly, and it's revealed that Michael charges his power by siphoning away young girls' life force. Of course, Kevin forces them to investigate this, they hunt him down, and they beat him. The end. And it feels just as perfunctory as I made it sound. Ben and Kevin basically get knocked down by him in an instant during the fight, but then Gwen finds her strength. Now, I like that Gwen beats him, especially since she's the one he ended up wanting to steal energy from, but doing it this way, it's once again pretty anticlimactic. As for Michael himself, he's a pretty decent villain. They did a good job of making him incredibly hateable with the way he carries himself and how smarmy and dishonest he seems. Other than that, I guess this episode is about progressing Kevin and Gwen's relationship. And we definitely get that by seeing how their styles of communication could cause some issues. But I also feel that by the end of this episode, we haven't got enough of a signpost of how they've grown together, of how they've changed, or where we are going with the relationship. Basically, I'd just like to see a little more between them at the end to know that they're moving in a good direction. But there is one thing I like about this episode, and that's the lesson for Ben to learn. Because he's seeing here that he needs to chart his own path, and that he can't just mindlessly follow his grandpa's advice without taking context into consideration. This is a good example of the type of conflict I often like to see for one of the characters in the show, where their issues don't stem from them being unlikable or incompetent or regressing things. Instead, it stems from something that is likable, Ben trying to do the best he can with his advice, but he just takes it in a bit of a wrong direction, and the lesson feels quite understandable and reasonable, and he comes out the other side a better protagonist. At the end of the day, though, this is basically another okay episode of Ben 10 Alien Force, with some stuff I like, and some stuff I don't really like all that much. However, there's more romance in the air tonight, baby, with the following episode. This time, Ben asks Julie on a date, but things get spicy when an upgrade-type alien is wreaking havoc at the fair. The main thing I like about this one is how funny it can be. I mean, this is easily the funniest episode of Ben 10 so far, and Kevin has some absolutely hilarious moments. Kevin is really nailing that trollish Big Brother energy, and I am here for it. But then we get to the other stuff, and oh Nelly, I sure am bored. First off, this carnival feels so lifeless. There's almost no one here in Alien Force, and they try to use the late night setting and the fact that it's a weekday to justify that, but it didn't work for me. It's one of these cases again where the settings in Alien Force feel very hollow. It doesn't help that this episode really doesn't go anywhere much either. Like, they learn that this upgrade alien is a pet for this other upgrade guy who needs help. They help him, and he leaves while gifting them his pet. To me, the main point of this would either be that we've developed Ben and Julie's romantic relationship, or that this pet has some plot relevance. Now, the pet will eventually be relevant, but in the short term, I was left majorly confused when he just ran off. What? Why are you letting him run away like that? You just saw how much destruction he can cause, Ben. As for Ben and Julie's relationship, yeah, I'm not getting much from them. Julie is so bland with how she just accepts everything at face value with no reaction. Really, she seems almost lifeless, and the relationship doesn't develop much over the course of these events, outside of Julie learning about and accepting his powered life. But there's a problem, which is that I don't really get Ben's secret identity. I mean, let's just pause. How secret is this really? We've already met a number of people who clearly know who Ben 10 is, and we're going to meet more of them. It makes the secret identity subplot feel flimsy and a bit ridiculous. So obviously that undermines this emotional moment between Julie and Ben, when I'm just questioning the logic of how any of this is really working. At the end of the day, I appreciate some of the jokes in this episode, but nothing else landed for me. Next up though, we're back to the main plot because Gwen's brother Ken has gone missing and now they need to track him down. But their quest quickly leads to the DN aliens and Grandpa Max. This episode is really focused on making the DN aliens conflict more personal for Gwen and Ben. After all, her brother's gone and they both really care about him. Beyond that, Grandpa is also tied up in this mess. Really, this is the point where the DN aliens go from being a somewhat abstract threat to the more personal villains they should be for our team. Or, well, that's what I would say. Unfortunately, a couple things really hold this episode back for me. First, the Ken stuff didn't really connect. Sure, he seems fine, but I don't get much of a personality from him, nor did Gwen react to his suffering in a strong enough way for me to really feel something. I mean, I get the part of the joke is that Ken is kind of just a normal guy that they're obsessed with, but I think they could have had that joke and gotten me to care a bit more as well. However, there's still a Grandpa part of this plot. I mean, this scene where he's in a hybrid's clutches and he threatens to blow them up is powerful. Grandpa is going to die right in front of Gwen and Ben in order to save the world, and he finishes off by entrusting everyone's safety to them. This is the moment so much of the first half has been building to. Ben said the training wheels are off, but now the entire bike's gone. He's going to have to figure this out on his own, and there's no way that's going to be easy. I mean, his reaction to this, it has to be.
That was pretty hardcore.
He saved the whole world.
Yeah, he did. For now.
Now, on its own, this isn't that bad. Ben's putting on a brave face. He's telling them we're gonna face the villains. He's probably pretty mad too because your grandpa is dead. And that's the thing that I need to remind you of. Ben truly believes Grandpa is dead. So, in future episodes, what are we going to do to show him dealing with that? I mean, they did a pretty good job with that message he got from Grandpa. He focused on that, he ruminated on it, and made him make some mistakes. So what's this gonna do? The answer is barely anything at all. Ben barely ever seems upset about Grandpa's death, and it was to such a degree that I wondered if I had misunderstood that scene. Like maybe Grandpa had said, "Oh, we're going to the Null Void, kids. I'll find you again later." But no, he definitely thinks Grandpa is dead. That is how the scene is framed. The most grief we ever get from him is him saying this in a later episode.
She misses Grandpa. She was fine in the car. It's my fault. I thought bringing her here would cheer her up.
This scene isn't even really about Ben's own grief. It's about him considering Gwen's. And I need to remind you, this is the most we get. Ben never looks back on Grandpa's death beyond this scene, at least not in any way that's remotely explicit. It's so bizarre. Of course, there is a counter to this, though, and that's that this is a children's show. Maybe they couldn't or didn't want to focus on the grief all that much because that would be pretty dark. And I can get that. But if that is the case, then don't pretend to kill Grandpa. But no, they chose this path. They chose to pretend that they had killed him off and to have the characters believe that he was gone. If you're gonna do that, you need to commit to the emotions, especially when we've established that this show has more of a consistent through line, an arc with the DN aliens and characters remembering things from past episodes. You can't just hand wave it away like that. Needless to say, so far this show isn't really connecting with me that much. Sure, I enjoy some individual ideas. There were some episodes that I thought were fine enough, but none of them have really hit hard. And there's other stuff that's very, very annoying. For example, remember how I was excited about Ben skinning his knee as Humongousaur and then hanging around after he transformed back to human? Yeah, that never goes anywhere. That never comes up again. So I guess they just forgot. I don't know. But it was annoying to see that once again, Ben 10 is casting previous ideas away, throwing them in the trash. Whatever, I guess. Now, this review is a little unique in that I don't think I've ever made another video where so many people were excited to see me enjoy something. So honestly, I feel a bit bad. I wanted to enjoy this. I am giving it a chance. I gave it a chance. I will continue to do so, but I can't pretend that I liked it. So far, I'm honestly not really getting it. Who knows though? Maybe later episodes will bring something else to the table that I just haven't noticed yet. Either way, I'm along for this ride now, and there's no getting off it. Ben 10 has me in its clutches, and I can't get away. So I'll continue reviewing Alien Force next time when I wrap up Season 1. Bye-bye for now, folks. Have a blessed time.